morning. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or you're watching from at home, it's good for all of us to be together. As we prepare for worship this Sunday before Halloween, I see some of you already dressed in your trick-or-treat finery. And so I share the words of Christian Schmidt, and may they help center our minds and our hearts for worship today. No matter who or what you are welcome here. Let's be clear, here we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters and police officers, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all varieties. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes and superstars. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all other manner of creatures. Here we welcome you and all of who and what you are. Welcome, let us begin.
It's time for us to light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition. Would a volunteer be willing to come forward, young or young at heart? Reverend Sasha will help. We're getting a no. Okay. Awesome. Please rise now as you're able to read together our chalice lighting words, which are on the screen, and let's say them together as our chalice is lit. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now please remain standing as we sing our opening hymn, which today is number 67 in the gray hymnal. We sing now together.
We sing out to
Rejoicing in God, great is His
welcome to the Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. I'm Steve Runyon, your worship associate today. Whoever you are and whatever has brought you on your spiritual journey to here, we welcome you and your life experiences. I especially want to take a moment to welcome any newcomers who are here with us this morning. If you have not already done so, I invite you to fill out a visitor's card and to help you get connected with us. You can also talk to today's welcome ambassador, Irene Mendelson. Okay, Marjorie Wormser. So please talk to Marjorie after the service, and she will help you get connected to us even better. And also, there is a newcomer circle, and that's an opportunity for any of our visitors to learn about the fellowship, meet Reverend Sasha, and connect with your fellow newcomers. And that will be meeting in Reverend Sasha's office at 11:30. So after the service, go grab a coffee or tea or whatever your beverage of choice is. And Reverend Sasha's office is right next to the room where the goodies are. The terrace room. Thank you. But is it labeled as the terrace room? Okay, but if newcomers might not know that it's called the terrace room. So, yes, the goodies are in the terrace room, and Reverend Sasha's office is right outside that. So grab whatever you want to eat or drink, and then head into Reverend Sasha's office at 11:30. We are a community of many ages and needs, but we all worship together. There are many different ways that you can join us on Sunday mornings, including here in our sanctuary, online, or in our library. The library is an especially good place if you or a loved one need space to talk or get all the wiggles out, and it has a screen, so you won't miss any of the service. You can find the library right outside of our sanctuary. There are always things going on here at Morristown UU. You can learn about some of these activities on our website at muuf.org, on the back of your order of service, or in our weekly e-newsletter. And I would like to highlight a couple of things that are happening this morning at 11:30. We have our Tending Congregational Life class. And again, we do have that newcomer circle for any visitors and newcomers. And this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we have our annual trunk or treat. So whether you like candy or not, everyone is welcome. Again, you can learn more about these activities and many more on the back of your order of service or in our newsletter or website. And as previously mentioned, we do have a coffee hour after the service, and we welcome all of you to come to that for coffees and goodies. And we are now going to have a special announcement from our service auction team.
Good morning. My name is Donna Perch, and I am a member of the Service Auction Committee. Would you like to get to know more members of our community? Do you enjoy delicious meals, soups, and desserts prepared by talented chefs? She does. She's shaking her head. Perhaps you like to hike, or maybe an exhilarating ride in a two-seater plane sounds like fun. Maybe you've been thinking that what you've always wanted to do is dress up like a pirate and drink rum. This year's service auction provides each of these opportunities and more. It's our biggest fundraiser and the core of our community social life. So now you're thinking, I've got to get in on this. What should I do next? Step 1, offer a service. Now is the time to let us know what you would like to offer in this auction. Our deadline for offerings is November 1st. Please visit us in the terrace room to tell us what you'd like to donate or to get some ideas. If you're watching online, send a note to our email address, serviceauction@muuf.org. Step 2, sign up for an event. On Saturday, November 16th, beginning at 5 p.m., we will hold our annual kickoff party. Delicious hors d'oeuvres and beverages will be served, and you'll get to sign up for the wonderful opportunities being offered by your fellowship friends. There will be live music, and we'll entertain your children with the movie If. So don't let a lack of childcare keep you away. Tickets are on sale in the terrace room, or purchase them online at any time through Realm. Don't be afraid to offer. Don't be afraid to sign up for events. You'll be happy you did.
Thank you, Donna. One last announcement. Over 50 people have already signed up for the next round of Cinema Circles. It's like a book club, but with movies and a great way to have fun with members and friends. See Jerry Weinstein right there in the Great Hall after the service to learn more or sign up. And once again, welcome everybody. We are glad you are here. And let's continue with our service.
All right. I got a story for some folks and some props, so I need some help. Can any of you younger folks come on up here? We're going to stay on this side in the danger zone over here. Come on up. Alice, you good? Can you come hold my baby doll here? Okay, come sit up here with me. I'm going to sit. I like your costume, by the way. You going to come up? All right. I know. All right. So, I'm going to pull out my phone here, because I keep all my notes on my phone. I'm not texting during service, everyone. I am paying attention. I'm very good at it. So I'm going to tell you a story. We got some pictures up here? All right, so I'm going to tell you a story of this little girl up here. We're over here because we're going to do an activity over there later. So this is a Russian folk tale, all right? So it comes from Russia. It's about a little girl named Valicia. And she lived on the edge of a dark forest. And one day, a very sad time came. Do you guys ever have some sad times in your life? Okay. Well, for Valicia, her mother grew very sick. And she knew she would soon die. And so Valicia's mother called her to her bedside and gave her daughter a little doll. So I have a doll here. This is probably very different than the one that Valicia got. They didn't have an old-timey one, so I have this fun one. So Alice is going to pretend to be Valicia for me, and she's going to hold it. And her mom said, "Keep this doll close when I am no longer with you. Care for her, and she will care for you. Tell her your troubles, and she will help you find courage and strength." And one day, her mother died, and despite her tears, Valicia remembered to care for her doll. So she shaved a few crumbs of bread. Can you take some bread? And a cup of tea. All right, you got it there? Good job, Alice. And in the evening, she brought them to bed with her, she placed her doll on the pillow and gave her a treat and a sip of tea. Can you give the doll a treat and a sip of tea? Can you pretend? No? Can I have some? What about you, Paisley? Can you pretend? Here, give it to Paisley. She'll do it then. All right? There we go. Take care of the doll together, right? And she told the doll her troubles, ending with a question. She said, "Little doll, what should I do?" Can you ask the little doll what to do? No? Okay. It seemed that little doll's eyes shone like fireflies. It was as though she spoke and said, just as her mother had always said, "Don't be afraid, Valicia. Be comforted. Say your prayers and go to sleep. The morning is wiser than the evening." Pretty good words, right? That's what her mom would say, and then she heard it in her doll, right? And Valicia thought that was true. Things never seem as bad in the morning as they do in the evening. What do you guys think? Are things worse in the evening, in the morning, when you're all overtired and cranky? Even though I know none of you children get overtired and cranky, right? Every day after that, Valicia continued to do as she was told. Each day she would save some breadcrumbs, and she would bring them, and with a glass of tea, to her bed, and each day she would fed her doll and told her her troubles. So here, let me see it. Can you pass it along? Okay, can you pretend to feed my doll for me? Here, you take a little give her a little sip. All right, and a little bite of bread. That's a pretty big old bread. Oh, okay, good. Here, can you hold her for me? Okay. And she told her troubles, and each day it seemed the doll spoke wise words to her heart in her mother's voice. And holding this doll helped Felicia feel comforted and brave. And one day, the flame in her hearth went out. You know what a hearth is? Fireplace, keeps you warm in old-timey days. You didn't have a furnace or a thermostat your dad doesn't let you touch, right? You just had a box with fire in it. So she needed a flame and bring it home, and she needed to bring it home for wealth and to cook with. But that meant she had to go out into the dark forest beyond her home to the hut of Baba Yaga. Can we give her a picture of Alex? There we go. She's got to go meet Baba Yaga. And Baba Yaga, she had heard, was very scary. She said that her hut stood on chicken bones, and it had a fence made of bones and skulls. And Baba Yaga was scary, an old, crackling forest witch. That's what she'd heard, these stories. But Felicia held her doll close. Can you hold your doll close? Like nice and, yeah, oh, there we go. Good. And she held her doll close, and she went out there, and there was no chicken bones, there was no skulls, just a white picket fence and an old lady. The old woman greeted her, and Felicia was afraid, but she held her doll even closer and found the courage to ask for fire. To her relief, Baba Yaga agreed to give her a flame. Can you hold my flame for me? Okay, there we go, good. Right? We'll pretend that it's on fire, right? You can put it down. You don't have to hold it up. That's kind of awkward. Asked her for fire, and she gave her a flame in exchange for a few chores that were hard for Baba Yaga because she was old, right? She helped her out, right? Helped this lady out. As Felicia completed the chores and received the flame from Baba Yaga, she felt less afraid. This was not a scary forest witch, just an old lady who needed help around the house. Maybe you guys know some folks like that, some folks who need some help. When Felicia left, she carried a new flame with her. It let her see the forest with new eyes. She realized it, like Baba Yaga, was not dangerous. She was not afraid anymore, and soon Felicia returned home. Can we have Felicia? She's in the forest. Next one. There we go. She's on the way. Russian paintings are wild, huh? Still, every day, Felicia saved some bread. So even after she went to her, so can you give it to Charlotte? Can Charlotte be the next Felicia for us? Here. Because you're sitting right there. And we have a pattern here. And every night, she would take her doll to bed and give her a little tea and a bite of bread. And soon, she had many joys. And she had as many joys as she had troubles to share. So she would tell her the good things and the bad things. Right? So that's the story. Is that a weird story? It's got some weird pictures at least, right? You know what's really cool about that story? It may be true, it may not be true, but what I think is really important is that Felicia, she did these things every day. What did she do every night? What did she do?
She told the doll problems.
She fed the doll and then told it her problems, and then her problems became joy. Do you know what we call that? Do we know what they call that? A ritual. We do a lot of rituals here in the fellowship. What rituals do we do? Name one real quick. Every day, every Sunday, before class. The chalice. We like the chalice, right? We do things and we find comfort in them, right? Felicia found comfort in those. All right? Does that sound good? So sometimes doing things is pretty good. All right. Reverend Sasha is going to talk more about it. All right, you guys can go sit down. Bring these in.
And now it's time for another ritual that we have each week, our milestones and passages. You know, sometimes we come to this sacred place with a whole lot of things in our hearts. Sometimes there are joys and sorrows that we bear with us. Maybe you had a new baby in your life. Maybe a loved one died. Whatever your joy or sorrow or concern, you can share it in our service by filling out one of our Milestones and Passages cards, or by filling out the form for Milestones and Passages, which you can find in the link in our newsletter. And this morning we have just one to share. Jane Shiva shares, my daughter Jackie Baldwin LeClaire married Brian Gomez October 2nd. My other daughter, Abby Baldwin LeClaire, graduated medical school in the spring. Congratulations, double congratulations to you. Yes. Let's go ahead now and take a quiet moment for the prayers and meditations of our own hearts. And this is a time for us to settle into our seats, close our eyes if that's something we'd like to do. Take a few moments to breathe with one another. Feel the Spirit of life holding all of us in this moment together. And take 3 deep breaths together, in and out, and in and out, and in and out. Let's go ahead and take a moment of silence for those prayers of our own hearts. Amen and blessed be. And now let's go ahead and remain seated as we sing together. It's number 1069 in your teal hymnal, Ancient Mother.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother,
Our reading this morning is by Melissa Jeter, who's currently a full-time seminarian at the Methodist Theological School in Delaware, Ohio, as well as a full-time librarian in Toledo, Ohio. She's the student minister affiliated with First Unitarian Church of Toledo. The self-determination of both sets of my grandparents helped them survive the Depression. My father's maternal relatives were skilled craftspeople while owning land and breeding animals. My mother's maternal relatives owned land in southeastern Ohio. Though I never knew them to live in the country, they were heartbroken to move to the city. As a child, I sat on their front porch with a toy stove. I had some vegetation from which I pulled little green bulbs. As I put them in the pot and stirred, my grandfather parked his blue pickup truck across the street. He was returning from the country where he had been gardening. As a tween, I witnessed neighbors in my working-class neighborhood take an empty lot and grow food on it when they were laid off from the steel mill. It always seemed a wise action to take, but I realized that I am compelled to do this too. My personal power lies in growing food. In my mid-20s, I read about living off the land. I had to make it work in the city with a raised bed and then a garden plot at church. I even taught myself to can. While some of my uncles worried that I had identity issues, I was canning the cha-cha spiced green tomato relish that their mother and grandmother made for them when they were children. My identity now derives from my relationship with the ground around me. Last year, I fought gophers from eating tomatoes in my garden, so this year I have a raised bed plus fencing to keep the gophers out. I now see the squirrels walking on top of the fence, eyeing the dirt. I start thinking about a possible war with the squirrels, but I suppose they have to eat too. Growing provides my life meaning, connects me to a long line of ancestors who had their hands in the dirt because it was keeping them alive. Their work brought me to this life. I am alive. I am fortunate not because I have a backyard, but because I grow in this quiet space of connection to people who brought me to life. The gardening I do harnesses the power within as I connect to the way of my ancestors' survival. This, too, is religion. Spirit of life, let the ancestors be realized in me. As I grow and differentiate myself in creation, may I also hold the line that brought me into being. Remind me that I can always harness this power within. Ashe, blessed be. And now we come to our time in the service when we pause to offer our gifts of financial support to this congregation. Your donation, large or small, makes a big difference, making possible all that we do here together. It also helps make our world a better place. That's because each Sunday we give at least half of the money we collect to an organization that is doing good work to advance our Unitarian Universalist values of love, justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Today's offering will be split 50-50 with the Interfaith Food Pantry, improving the health and well-being of Morris County residents in need by providing access to food, education, and other resources. You may give in our collection plate or by following the instructions printed in your order of service and shown on the screen. And thank you in advance for your generosity. Will the ushers please come forward to receive our gifts?
For today's theme on loss and remembrance, Daryl and Beth will be playing a wonderful piece by the composer Jesse Montgomery, living composer. I will read this. The piece is called Peace, P-E-A-C-E, so as in world peace. And there's a poem a little blurb that Jesse Montgomery wrote for the piece that I'll read now. Written just a month after the great sadness of the first quarantine orders due to COVID-19, facing the shock felt by the whole globe as well as personal crisis, I find myself struggling to define what actually brings me joy. And I'm at a stage of making peace with sadness as it comes and goes like any other emotion. I'm learning to observe sadness for the first time, not as a negative emotion, but as a necessary dynamic to the human experience. Thank you, Beth and Daryl.
Thank you for your music. 2 weeks ago, I mentioned an interesting feature of our shared space here, the sacred space that we share, our whispering wall. And this week, Hazel reminded me of another that I had completely forgotten about, our wind telephone. Now, I haven't had the pleasure yet of seeing our wind telephone since our memorial garden has been closed due to construction since my arrival, but my understanding is that it's an unconnected rotary phone that anyone visiting our memorial garden can use to have a one-sided conversation with your loved ones who have died. And the idea, which I believe comes from Japanese culture, is that this is a way for us to reconnect with our loved ones after they have passed away. And the idea that we have a wind telephone here at Morristown UU inspired a story that I would like to share with you today, a story about the wisdom of this tool for helping us cope with grief. The story goes like this, and we'll kind of center this sermon around it. Once upon a time, there was a little village named Patchland that was known far and wide for its ginormous pumpkins. And each year, Patchland's villagers lugged their magnificent orange pumpkins to the county's harvest festival for the annual pumpkin contest. And each year, they returned to Patchland with handfuls of first-place ribbons for their winning pumpkins. But no one in Patchland knew how to grow pumpkins like Grandma Amber. Grandma Amber wasn't just a master pumpkin grower. Her garden burst with all kinds of squash and sweet potatoes and carrots. Apple trees lined her driveway, and marigolds grew in every nook and cranny on her land. And Amber loved her garden. But there was someone that she loved even more, her granddaughter, Maple. Every day, Maple helped her grandmother tend the garden. Amber loved sharing her gardening wisdom with the little girl, and Maple loved soaking it up from her grandmother. And then one October, Amber passed away. And after that, the garden felt empty without her grandmother. And still, Maple visited daily, walking aimlessly, until one day she came upon a weeping willow. And the tree seemed to mirror her aching heart. It drooped sadly, its amber leaves cascading to the ground like tears. And Maple sighed, and pushing the leaves aside, she ducked into the secluded area beneath the branches, that secret area under that tree. And then she blinked in surprise, for even though she had seen the weeping willow many times in her life, growing up, she had never been under its leaves before. She'd never seen that the leaves hid a lone telephone, which hung by its cord from a branch. And a wooden sign rested on a branch above it. In her grandmother's elegant handwriting, the sign said, "Wind telephone." And Maple remembered stories that her grandmother had told her about a magic phone that let people speak to their loved ones who had died. But she had always thought it was a fairy tale, and yet here the phone was under that tree. Her heart felt empty without her grandmother, but now hope fluttered in her like that bird we talked about a couple weeks ago, the bird of hope. And Maple picked up the phone. "Grandma," she whispered into it, "I miss you so much. The garden isn't the same without you. I don't know what I'm doing here without you." Then she held her breath. She half expected to hear her grandmother respond, but all she heard was silence. And disappointed, she dropped the phone and she left. But as she stepped out from under the weeping willow, its leaves brushed her cheek, as gentle as her grandmother's hand. And she remembered all of the times her grandma had dried her tears in times of trouble. And although she felt sad, she also found a smile on her face as she remembered those times. At the end of memorial services that I officiate, I usually share a few special words. After extinguishing the chalice flame, which we light during those memorial services as a memorial flame to honor the person who has died, I say, though we have extinguished this chalice, let us be confident that such love as his or hers never touched the face of the earth without creating something eternal. His bright spirit radiates through our lives still. Even after death separates us from our loved ones, it's possible to continue hearing their wise and loving voices. And now I'm not talking right now about just their spirits. I know there are many different beliefs among us about that. But instead, what I mean right now is that their love and their wisdom remain with us even after they have passed away. Like Mabel learned with the wind telephone, the connections that we share with one another in life do not disappear with death. When we listen carefully, we can hear echoes of our departed loved ones all around us. Remember how Maple felt her grandma's gentle touch in the weeping willow's leaves? Just like that, we too can find comfort in the legacies that our loved ones leave behind. And this is an especially good time of the year to honor our loved ones' legacies. Halloween is just a few days away. And this time of the year isn't just a time when we enjoy candy and dress up in fun costumes and celebrate all things spooky. It's also time when we and many religious communities around the world gather to honor loved ones who have died. All around the world, cultures honor their dead in late October and early November in all kinds of unique and beautiful ways. Some Christian communities observe All Hallowtide, which includes All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. The All Hallowtide season begins on October 31st with All Hallows' Eve, from which we get the name Halloween, and it's a time to honor the faithful dead. In Mexico and in some Mexican-American communities here in the United States, people celebrate Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. If you ever attend a Dia de los Muertos festival, you might spot altars filled with bright orange and yellow marigolds, the flower of the dead, and sweets like sugar skulls. And these traditions combine Christian and indigenous practices to honor the dead. And at this time of the year, some pagan and earth-centered communities observe the Gaelic holy day, Samhain, to honor departed loved ones, when the veil between this world and the world of the dead is believed to be very thin. Traditions such as these remind us that death is a part of life and that we can keep the memories of our departed loved ones alive with us by honoring our dead. This morning, we have an opportunity to honor our own loved ones who have died. By remembering them, we remind ourselves that they are with us still, in memory and in legacy now and always. And on the table in front of me are photos that some of you brought of your dearly departed loved ones. And the act of placing a photo is a gesture of love and remembrance, a way to honor those who touched our lives and journeyed before us. And at this time, if you did not bring a photo with you today, but you would still like to honor a loved one who died, I invite you to speak their name into the silence of this sacred space, and let us welcome among us the memories of our loved ones who have passed away with the sharing of their names. Please speak their names now. As these names echo in our ears and our hearts, and as we look upon these photos, may the memories that they represent be blessed. May our memories of our loved ones offer us comfort. May the wisdom they shared in their time with us continue to guide us. And may their stories and experiences bring deeper connection and meaning to our own lives. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. And let's go ahead now and pause before returning to our sermon to sing together. And we're going to go ahead and remain seated for this one. And let's sing just the refrain from our hymn. It's number 1001 in your blue hymnal breaths.
Listen more often to things than to being. Listen more often to things than to being. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the voice of the water.
Let's go ahead and continue with this story. The day after discovering the wind telephone, Maple returned to the garden. She was determined to honor her grandmother's memory by tending the plants. And each day she found herself under the weeping willow with the wind telephone pressed to her ear. "I'm not sure what went wrong with the beets, Grandma," she whispered, "but the pumpkins are fine. I'm going to make your pumpkin pie, and with your recipe, maybe I will win first prize at the Harvest Festival." And a few weeks later, she stood with a ribbon in her hand and the telephone to her ear. And, "Grandma," she said, "you'll be so proud of me. I won 3rd place." And each day, the garden flourished, and each day, Maple flourished too. As the marigolds blossomed, she blossomed too, first into a teenager and then into a young woman. And whenever she visited the garden over the years, she held the wind telephone to her ear and remembered her grandmother's wisdom. Sometimes when our loved ones die, we find ourselves feeling close to the things that remind us of them. And for Maple, tending her grandma's garden was a way to continue feeling close to Amber. And in doing so, she discovered something important, something that I hope that we will discover as well for ourselves if we haven't already. It's a truth that I hope we can all embrace. It is okay and even good for us to allow ourselves to mourn. You know, our society isn't great at mourning. Sometimes we try to push ourselves very quickly through the grieving process, and we can be uncomfortable with being perceived as mourning for too long or too intensely. We're uncomfortable talking about death and mourning. But again, letting ourselves mourn doesn't diminish our lives. If anything, it actually enriches them. Because instead of hardening our hearts, grieving opens our hearts and makes space inside of us for everything that we're feeling. The pain sometimes, yes, but also the comfort, the joy, and the strength that memories of our dearly departed can bring us. As we let ourselves mourn, we can heal and grow. Now, not all the ways that we honor our dead are necessarily about mourning, though. Some of our dearly departed ones are not personal acquaintances who were in our lives or who we ever even knew. And still, they too deserve to be honored. And a few weeks ago, one of you mentioned to me in kind of my listening tour that I've been doing with folks that each person is a living testament to the resilience of their ancestors. They may have lived long before our time, but their legacies still dwell within us. We are living proof that they existed. And today we have the opportunity to not just honor our loved ones who passed away recently, but all of our ancestors, those who came before us from time immemorial, who we may never have met, but who still shaped our lives and our communities. And our ancestors include not just our biological forebears, but also our spiritual forebears, those whose wisdom and actions have influenced and inspired our own paths. And honoring our ancestors is a way of acknowledging our history and our heritage. It connects us to our roots as well as to the longer story, the larger story that we're a part of, a story that began long, long ago with those who came before us. And on the table over here with the photos of our loved ones, you may have noticed a cloth banner of a tree. And it's not just a family tree representing our biological relatives, but an ancestor tree representing all of those who came before us, blood relations or not. And the tree is bare right now, but soon we will make it more vibrant by adding some leaves, using some felt leaves that I have brought. And each leaf we add will represent our own ancestors. And so at this time, I invite you to come on forward and participate in this community art project. And to help make things go a little bit more smoothly, again, I ask that each of you only place one leaf so that we have plenty of time for everyone. And go ahead and please come forward now. May this tree we've created together remind us of our deep connections to those who came before us and to the ways in which their legacy lives on in our actions and our values today. May we carry their stories with us, and may these stories guide us as we navigate our own paths through life. And may this ancestor tree be a symbol for us of our gratitude and our commitment to learning from those who walked before us. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so. And let's go ahead and rise this time in body or spirit, and we're going to sing the first verse and the refrain of our song, Breaths. It's number 1001 in your teal hymnal.
Those who have died and never ever loved, the dead are not under the earth. There is no lost retreat. They are in the growing woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the roaring rocks. The dead are not under the earth.
I can see that you know this one. Please be seated. Let's wrap up this sermon by wrapping up Maple's story. By the time Maple became a mother, the garden she had inherited from her grandmother had become a living testament of her grandma's abundant love. Each blossom, leaf, and pumpkin and apple served as a reminder of her grandma's presence in her life. And the garden had also grown into a legacy that Maple could now pass along to her own children. And as they tended the crops together, she told them of their grandmother's stories about the wind telephone and shared her advice about growing the best pumpkins. And whenever she wanted to feel close to her grandmother, she knew she could always find her right there in the garden in every leaf and the whispering wind. My friends, death is a part of life. With love comes loss. When we lose a loved one, we may feel empty for a time and weighed down with grief, but if we listen carefully, we can hear our loved ones' voices in the wind, in the rustling leaves, and in the memories and legacies that they left behind. May we find comfort in our memories of them. May their wise words echo in our hearts, and may we find strength in the legacies that they have left us. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Now let's go ahead and rise in body or spirit one more time and sing verse 2 and the refrain of our hymn to wrap it up.
With us in our home.
Please be seated. It's time now for us to bring our time of worship to a close, but as we extinguish this chalice flame, its light will continue to burn in our hearts. As we go out into our daily lives, I leave you with the words of Leah Duran Jones. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. And may we go forth from this time and place, inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating heaven on earth. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.